Hello, and welcome to a video review of the Garmin eTrex 20 GPS. This is the middle kid of a refreshed eTrex line for Garmin for 2011. We'll take a look at some of the features of the device, even talk about some things it's missing, the digital compass and barometric altitude, things like that. Also take it for a quick hike in the woods and see how it performs. So let's have a quick look at the hardware on the 20. The overall size is really nice. Here I'm comparing it to one of the earlier generations. I know, don't ask. Included with the device, you get a lanyard. I half hitch that to my belt, kind of a safety line. Comes with a USB cable to hook to your computer under that little flappy there. Underneath the weatherproof battery cover, you'll find a card slot. We'll talk more about that in a bit. It has a 4-way directional control, button, joystick, whatever you want to call it. The plastic non-touch screen actually isn't set back in, so it's the highest point. Probably know what that means. The back cover on the device uses Garmin's backbone design, which is really a clever idea, in my opinion. Here's hoping Garmin sticks to this design from here on out. All the accessories you buy, if you get another Garmin, you can actually use them. Good for you and for Garmin, because you just might buy another Garmin device because of this. All in all, pretty happy with the new hardware. Would like to see that screen set back a couple millimeters. Also would like diagonal control on the joystick, but then again, Garmin never asked me, and they should have. One of the most unique features of this entire 10, 20, 30 lineup is the use of GLONASS satellites. These are Russian-based satellites that they're not even all up there yet. They'll be finished in 2012. This is supposed to give us a little faster acquisition of satellites, and it's also supposed to give us a little better accuracy. In my unscientific testing, the device seems to snap right to it. I don't know if that has anything to do with GLONASS or not, or if it's just Garmin's predictive satellite technology. Either way, I'm happy. As far as accuracy goes, I really can't tell the difference between having the GLONASS and just having a regular GPS with high sensitivity. Or it's so minute, I'm just not seeing it. Maybe future updates to the software will do a better job, but I just don't see it. Speaking of GPS, you get GPS elevation. This is not barometric like the 30, but it certainly gives you a fairly accurate representation of your altitude, and also plots it out in all different forms, in many ways that I could care less about. If you're into this, I can't tell you much about it, but it seems to work just fine without requiring calibration, which I really like. Another feature of the 20 and the 10 is they don't have a built-in digital compass, but they use GPS-based compass. I'm going to go into a little more detail on this to clear this up. This really seems to throw people. Not sure if you caught that, but I said feature is not having a digital compass. Obviously, I'm of the no digital compass camp. It's a lot like asking people, do you want a Mac or PC? Which one's better? You'll hear arguments on both sides of the fence. Obviously, it's a personal decision, but for me, a digital compass requires calibration. It requires additional battery power. It's affected by magnetic interference, those type of things. I'm a pilot. I like to take my GPS in the plane with me, which is basically a hollowed out soup can. No compass seems to work better for me. On the other hand, it doesn't work when you're not moving. Let me show you in more detail here. So I shot this little video here. I am standing pointing west, and the compass says west. If I turn east, because I'm sitting in the same spot, it will not say east until I start to move. You'll notice 1, 2 steps, maybe 1.5 steps, it's now reading correctly. And you can trust that compass up there. You'll notice as I turn right here, it will actually turn to south. Highly accurate, but you have to be moving. Even a slow walk will give you the correct compass direction. The one place where a digital compass is easier is when you're geocaching and you're stopped. You come to very thick area. You really can't walk enough to get the GPS-based compass to activate. This requires a little forethought and a little different technique. I would say either way, whether you have a compass or not, you're going to be able to find geocaches with the 10, the 20, or the 30. If you decide you do want a digital compass, I would say that even though it's tilt compensating, you don't have to hold it flat. My concern would be this device, because of the screen technology it uses, you really are going to find yourself tilting it to the left, to the right, all over the place. The non-digital compass devices aren't affected by that twisting. I don't know if the tilt compensated compass on the 30 is. Sounds like a segue to me. Let's talk about the screen. Because the 20 and 30 have to display everything from satellite imagery to photos to just about any map that you want to install. They have a lot of colors, and they are sunlight readable, and they are also backlit if you choose to use the backlight. The only problem with the backlight is it chews through the battery. I will say I use a screen protector, which makes it a little worse, but you notice I have a full battery meter here. If I crank up the backlight, which makes it easier to read, you'll see very clearly, not only does it show on the display, but you'll cut your battery life in half having that backlight powered up. This requires backlight management. I will give Garmin props for creating a simple, easy to get to backlight control setup. It's customizable, but I really like the old-fashioned style where the backlight's off, you press the light button, the dedicated light button on the side, turns the backlight on. When the backlight shuts off, it doesn't come on again until you hit the backlight button again. That would be best for me. It's not on the device. Just a thought, Garmin. Are you listening? Speaking of batteries, I use rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. They're old, they've been abused, and I would say with the backlight off, I have no problem getting through a day on a charge. We're talking 5 or 6 mile hike, and then do a little bit of geocaching on the way home. No problem at all. Turn that backlight on, 4 or 5 hours, I kill them. To make a long story short, bring spare batteries with you. Another thing I found is I like to jam the GPS in my pocket while it's running a track log. Because of that little joystick thing there, it seems to power the backlight on all by itself and make random button clicks while I'm walking, kind of like a cat walking on a keyboard. You just get this mess. I killed my batteries one day on a hike just because it was in my pocket pressing buttons randomly. Kind of a pain. Wish they'd put a lock on that thing. The Garmin 20 and 30 both come with a built-in base map. This is basic, but good enough to kind of give you an idea of where you are. Has some roads on it that you can, unfortunately, if you try to route, you'll notice if you go into the automotive profile, it actually tries to route you and then realizes you don't have the paid maps installed, which you certainly can. You buy the maps from Garmin, and it'll give you turn-by-turn directions if you want, but out of the box, no. As far as the basics you would expect from a GPS, it will mark a location, a waypoint. You can change the name of it if you wish. You can change the icon. You can leave yourself a little note in there if you want. It'll keep your track as long as the device is on, kind of a row of breadcrumbs behind you, keeping pace of where you're going. You can always save these routes on device if you ever want to use them again. You can also transfer them to your computer or to Garmin Connect online. The device also will take you back to a waypoint at any time. This is as the crow flies, of course. You can see by the pink line that's drawn there. It's trying to walk me straight back. And if that doesn't work and you actually needed to go back step by step, taking the exact same path back, you can do that by going in and say, route me back. even though I rarely will track back. I usually try and find my way out another way. But if you're running out of sunlight and you need to get out and you're lost, it's going to be a lifesaver for you. While I'm happy to say that the basics are easy to use and functional, unfortunately, Garmin did a horrible job with the step up from the basics. For example, if you're trying to save a track for later use, and then coming back and trying to use that saved track, or trying to save a portion of a track, or reversing your route, the UI is so poorly done. Shame on you, Garmin. It's horrible. The Garmin will keep track of the things you did on a certain day, which is a nice way to sort through things. You can see here I had 13 waypoints marked, 2 routes, and then you can click on those days and get a full breakdown of exactly what you did that day. Very nice. One fun thing you can do with your GPS is go geocaching. It's a lot of fun. You can certainly put in the raw coordinates for geocache if you want. Change the icon, you can change the name, you can even add little notes in the waypoint if you want and you save it. Or, for example, if you go on vacation, you could put in the Eiffel Tower and it would take you right to it. If you don't want to enter them by hand, it takes a little while to get in there for each one. You can certainly plug it in the computer and load them in bulk. I loaded about 5 mile radius worth of geocaches just to see if I could gag the device. Nah, it worked fine with them all in there. Now this works for geocaching.com. It also works for open caching. Keep in mind that for geocaching.com, if you have an actual paid account, you get more goodies. You get the descriptions and the hints and that stuff loaded into the device, where if you don't, you can still put them in, you just don't get all the technical details of it. From the nice custom views you can set up for geocaching down to the ease of loading caches. This is clearly a geocaching machine, and it does do a great job. The main reason I bought the 20 was for my day hikes. I didn't get the chance to put any custom maps in or anything. This is just a going blind hike. Headed out, cleared everything before I entered the woods, set a waypoint, checked the time the sun would go down, set an alarm to remind me a little bit before so I could make a decision if I wanted to turn around or not. I made sure to mark any spots where there was a T or a Y in the single track there. That way I would pay attention when I got to those areas if I had to track back for some reason. The device never lost its way. It never lost its connection. Did a fantastic job. When I realized I was pretty much clear, I just used the mouse, moved over to kind of the direction I wanted to go as the crow flies, headed that way. Eventually I met up with one of my original paths that I had saved in the device. Trying to pull up one of these saved tracks is a living nightmare, and you're better just following the map than trying to figure out their horrible UI. So I simply followed the map home. Worked great. One last thing, even though I would never do it, I thought I would pull up my little hike, load it onto the computer so I could stare at it all night long and be amazed at my accomplishments. Worked great for those who are interested. Final thoughts on the 20. I have only made a dent in what it can do and what it's capable of. I think I'm most excited about the things I haven't done yet, being able to add custom maps and being able to take my own PDF from a park and load it into the device. Should be fun. Overall, the device is really good, and I'm happy with it. Could be a really great device. Unfortunately, I don't think Garmin's going to go back and fix any of those UI issues, but they have a pretty good track record of fixing bugs and that type of thing and optimizing the device, so time will tell. If you have any questions, go ahead and stick them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer, or someone else who has the device can answer. With that, thanks for watching.